Childhood obesity is a large problem in America, and with every year it grows larger. As a matter of fact, in the past 30 years, the rate of childhood obesity has more than tripled.
A little bit of history that many of you are familiar with, but I'll recall that in order to create the strongest possible military, we must address obesity among America's children. The history: the National School Lunch Act was made law in 1946 as a response to the alarming number of Americans who were rejected for World War II military service because diet-related health problems. That's how we got any of the food stamps and the food initiatives in our country. More than 60 years later, America faces the same problem. 27% of young Americans are unable to serve in the military because they are overweight.
Well, my name's Chris Leslie. I've been a Belleville High School teacher now for 11 long years, and long before I ever got into teaching, one thing that always interested me was health and wellness. I actually grew up a very heavy-set, near-obese child, and knew the difficulties of it, and never really knew anything about health wellness or even health care. I just knew basically what my parents taught me, what their parents taught them, and so on and so forth. So in order to break the cycle for myself and for my kids, I got into a lot of health and wellness. And as a teacher, I correlated that with how student diet affects student performance. And the ironic part of it was it's actually pretty close in relationship in terms of healthy students and successful students. So whatever questions you got, you spit them out for me.
Okay, well here's the first one. What is your take on the state of school lunches as of now?
State of school lunches in terms of the school lunch program are for the most part atrocious. Most of this food is actually quite unhealthy. Many of it is actually what's called mechanically separated meats, which takes a lot of the other parts of the meats that the slaughterhouses you would think would throw away. Instead, they help grind them up and mix them with some of the more knowledgeable fats and foods that we know of, like chicken cutlet or some of the ribeye steaks. And they mix them all together, add nitrate and some other preservatives, which are cancer-causing agents. Almost coming into like a cake batter consistency. They fry them up, or in some cases bake them up, even though it's fried, and they serve them to you as mechanically separated meats. And this is the part of the animals that you don't really want to eat. And you can imagine with some areas of the cattle, or whatever it may be, the cattle, chicken, this is stuff you do not want to eat.
So what sort of changes have you seen that have been made to the school menu?
I've actually seen a few changes. I've noticed a little bit more veggies, but for the most part I would say there's actually been pretty small amounts of changes from the wonderful loaded nachos that they eat here, the mechanically separated steak for the cheese and steak sandwiches that you have, the little hockey pucks, what they should be using down in the gymnasium. Instead they're serving to you for your hamburgers. I'm sure you've had the chicken patty here. If you crack it open, you see little air holes in them. That's mechanically separated meat. You should see striations, you should see good ground beef, and I just don't see that in here. But I have seen some changes, but very, very small, subtle changes, to say the least.
Well, is there one specific food that you really wish the students wouldn't buy for lunch?
Not just one. I think just the mechanically separated meats. We give very small amounts of healthy, high fruit, high protein, high carbohydrate density foods. We usually give refined carbohydrates. Most of the meals I see is cheesesteaks, French fries, with some of the loaded nachos are always my favorite. Look as if I want to give them to my own animal. This stuff is not going to fuel your brain. Two things your body really needs is glucose and hydration in terms of your brain function. What we tend to do is give you refined carbohydrates, processed foods that spike your blood sugar levels, causes your insulin levels to spike, and actually goes from being a very high to a very low functioning brain, probably within 40 minutes of when you eat that food.
And what type of effect does that food have on students' performance?
Longevity. We have in New Jersey at least roughly 60 to 70% of all New Jerseyans in the next 2.5 decades they could believe be on an obesity level or near obesity level. Specifically, if you look at the terms of healthcare, that's going to be in the trillions of dollars, and if you add into Obamacare, think about what that's going to do to your taxation.
is there anything on the menu that you would consider healthy?
Actually, I like what they do with the fruits and veggies. We haven't gotten really to organic a lot. I do not believe the school lunch program has organic foods, which means they're laced with pesticides, herbicides. Technically, they call them natural. Natural just means it's grown from the earth. So once I grow from the earth, I could put whatever formaldehyde on it for all you care, and I could still call it natural by law. But I would like to see a few changes. Instead of the slush puppies, I think they're called, the cookies, that whole nasty area there, which is leading to obesity levels with those styles of foods. Nice fresh fruit, nice fresh vegetables, maybe build your own salad style of menu, and I can promise you it's going to cause slower digestion, your blood sugar's not going to spike, and have better performance in class. And just think about if you've ever gone to McDonald's, when you get done eating a cake, you load it up on cookies, you feel on top of the world, you feel like you run through a wall with all the energy, and then you fall flat on your face. Now, for most teachers, that's because of the blood sugar levels and the food we're giving. You hear spiking them. For me, I just bore my students. That's why they fall asleep. But most teachers, it's because of the food.
Sugar crashes and hikes. Well, actually just yesterday, when I had eaten a slice of my birthday cake, I was completely loaded up with icing. And in the middle of studying, I just felt exhausted. Is that what the sugar hike and crash would be?
Ultimately, your pancreas is going to release insulin to regulate your blood sugar. So kind of picture it as if with all the kids in the hallway, the teachers act as the insulin. We come in, we fund you all out at the end of the day when you're supposed to leave to help create a nice homeostasis in the hallway. We being the insulin, you guys being the blood sugar and the high glucose levels in your blood. Problem is, insulin does its job too good. So you go from being at a nice level, it drops you way past it. That's why you're crashing. So if the school will give you better food, allow you to possibly drink water in class, which I think you all should be able to do. A dehydrated brain is a very slow and tired brain. Now remember, you got 100 billion neurons going on in that brain. You got to fuel them somehow. And if you're putting, instead of gasoline into it, so to speak, into an engine, if you're pouring orange juice, I don't think your car's going to run real well.
I think I'm kind of scared of going to lunch now.
I would be. Always bring your lunch. That's a good lesson on bringing lunch.
Okay, that's
That's good?
All right, let's give Mr. Leslie a nice round of applause.